"You are not my class, young man," said the adorable princess loud enough for him to hear. Her words, sharp and piercing, cutting through the atmosphere, leaving an aura of mixed feelings and reactions in the cafe. But instead of walking away defeated, something inside Chima snapped. "She doesn't know who I am yet, but she will." Please watch with rapt attention before yielding to that pressure. Chima was no stranger when it comes to life struggles. From his young age, Chima had learned that life was a battle, one he couldn't afford to lose. Raised by a single mother in a modest neighborhood, Chima watched his mother work tirelessly to make ends meet. He knew he had to make something out of himself, not just for his own sake, but to honor the sacrifices his mother had made. He wasn't a natural-born genius, neither did he have an affluent background, but for all he lacked in resources, he made up for them in ambition. Every day after school, he worked part-time jobs, tutoring, helping in the local library. He tried whatever he could do to make savings for his future. He dreamed of the day when he would step out of his neighborhood, his humble beginnings, and make something grand out of himself. Of all that Chima imagined, little did he know that the moment that would change the course of his life would come at the hands of a young woman who at the time seemed out of his league. It was at a local cafe where Chima first caught sight of her, Ada. She was stunning, confident, and appeared to glide through life effortlessly. Her laughter was contagious and her smile could light up a room. Ada was the daughter of a wealthy businessman in the city, someone Chima had always seen as unattainable. She was beautiful, elegant, and out of his class, or so he thought. One fateful evening, Chima found himself seated at a corner table in the cafe, working on an online course when Ada and her friends walked in. Ada, as usual, was the center of attraction, drawing admiring glances from everyone in the cafe. Chima, for reasons he couldn't explain, found himself watching her and got captivated by her presence. That's when it happened. A young man, clearly trying to impress Ada, made a remark about Chima's worn-out shoes and his friends laughed. Ada, who was overhearing the conversation, looked over at Chima, her gaze cold and dismissive. "You are not my class, young man," she said, loud enough for him to hear. Her words, sharp and piercing, cutting through the atmosphere. Chima's face reddened with humiliation. His heart sank as the words of Ada echoed in his mind. "Not my class!" The sting of the insult lingered. Ada's laughter, her careless remark, filled him with a sense of worthlessness. But instead of walking away defeated, something inside him snapped. For the first time in his life, he felt the full force of his inadequacy, and it fueled him. As Ada and her friends continued their conversation, Chima stood up, his chest tight with both anger and resolve. He didn't confront her. He didn't say anything. He simply walked out, the weight of her words spurring him on. "She doesn't know who I am yet, but she will." The next few years were nothing short of transformative. Chima worked harder than ever. The insult, as painful as it had been, became the fire that pushed him to excel. He dived into his studies with renewed vigor, enrolled in business courses, and even launched a small tech startup during his final year at university. He neither had the connections nor the financial backing, but he had something more powerful, an unyielding determination. Chima's business quickly gained traction. He became known for his innovative solutions, his ability to think outside the box, and his relentless pursuit of success. Investors who had once overlooked him now began to take him seriously. As his company grew, so did his influence. By the time he was 28 of age, Chima was running a successful tech firm with a growing global presence. But amidst all his accomplishments, there was still one thing that lingered in the back of his mind: Ada. He had never forgotten the sting of her words, and though he had moved on from the insult, a part of him couldn't shake off the desire for revenge. Not the kind of revenge one might think, but the kind that came with proving to himself that he could rise above it all. And as fate would have it, their paths crossed again in the most unexpected way. One evening, Chima attended a high-profile business event where he was invited as a guest speaker. As he entered the venue, his eyes scanned the crowd, but he wasn't prepared for what he saw next. Ada, now a successful event planner in her own right, was standing near the entrance greeting guests. She hadn't seen him yet. Chima's heart raced as memories flooded back, the cafe, the humiliation, the words that had driven him to greatness. This was the moment he had been subconsciously preparing for, and yet he was unsure how he felt. Ada noticed him then. Her eyes widened slightly, her face showing a flicker of recognition. She approached him cautiously, her face an unreadable mask. "Chima," she said, her tone somewhat apologetic, "I didn't expect to see you here." Chima smiled, but it wasn't out of anger or bitterness. It was a smile that held both pride and calmness. "I didn't expect to be here either," he said, his voice steady. "But I guess fate has its way of surprising us." They spoke briefly, and Chima noticed the change in Ada's demeanor. The young woman who had once looked down on him now seemed genuinely interested in him. Her respect, once absent, was now palpable. As the evening went on, they exchanged stories, laughter, and even a few apologies. Ada admitted that she had been blind to her own privilege, and she expressed remorse for her words all those years ago. Chima, in turn, didn't hold any resentment. A few months later, they met again, this time in a more personal setting. Chima realized that Ada was no longer the person who had once looked down on him. She was someone who had grown too, someone who was now seeking to do more for others. They began to spend more time together, slowly discovering that they had more in common than they thought. It didn't take long for Chima to realize that the very woman who had once insulted him, the woman who had pushed him to become everything he had ever dreamed of, was now the one he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. He remembered his thoughts from years ago. "She doesn't know who I am yet, but she will." And now she did. One evening, as they stood on a rooftop overlooking the city that had once been a symbol of their separate worlds, Chima took Ada's hand in his. "Ada," he said, his voice steady but full of conviction, "I'm going to show you what true love is all about. I've come this far because of you. Your words, your insult, they were the catalyst that changed my life. Please marry me. You made me who I am today." Ada looked at him, her eyes wide with both surprise and warmth. The old Ada, the one who had dismissed him so easily, was long gone. Now she was looking at the man who had made a success of himself, the man who had overcome every obstacle, and it was this man she was falling in love with. "I never thought I'd hear that," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "But now I understand. You've shown me what real strength is. And I want to be by your side forever, Chima, for everything that lies ahead." The story of Chima and Ada was never meant to be ordinary. It was a tale of redemption, transformation, and a relentless pursuit of greatness. But above all, it was the story of two people from vastly different worlds coming together and building an empire that left everyone in awe. Their reunion was unexpected, yet it felt like destiny. The wedding between Chima and Ada was a groundbreaking one. It attracted the presence of the who is who's in the city, as men of various social cadres and economic status massively came to witness and honor them both. The father of Ada, the renowned business mogul in the city, pulled his own connections to the occasion such that the political class, it was an occasion that the city could not forget in a hurry. But what came after their vows was even more extraordinary. The idea came one quiet evening as they sat on the balcony of their apartment overlooking the city skyline. They had just returned from a networking event where Chima had been the guest speaker on a panel about business innovation, and Ada had coordinated the entire event. It had been a successful night, but it also sparked a conversation between them that would change their lives forever. Ada, the ever visionary woman, posed a question that would reshape their futures forever. "What if we combined our expertise?" Ada said, her eyes alight with excitement. "What if we created something that no one else has dared to? A company that takes event planning to a whole new level by fusing technology with creativity." Chima's heart raced as the idea took root. The more he thought about it, the clearer it became. What Ada was suggesting wasn't just a business venture, it was the future. The world was moving towards a new reality where technology and experiences would converge in ways never imagined before. With Ada's eye for design and Chima's tech expertise, they had the potential to change the event planning industry forever. They started with a blank slate, brainstorming ideas over late-night coffees and weekend getaways. They dreamed of a company that could create immersive, multisensory experiences, blending the virtual and physical worlds in a seamless dance. Chima could envision holographic projections at weddings, augmented reality enhancing corporate events, and AI-driven guest experiences that personalized every interaction. Ada's creativity and organizational prowess would ensure that the aesthetics, flow, and essence of each event would be nothing short of magical. Together, they launched Fusion Events, a company designed to merge the worlds of cutting-edge technology and high-end event planning. But from the very beginning, they knew their mission was more than just making money. They wanted to change the way people viewed events, to move beyond mere gatherings and create unforgettable experiences that stirred emotions and sparked imaginations. Their first project together was an international product launch for a tech company. The event was to take place in a sprawling luxury venue, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. Chima's team worked tirelessly to design interactive holograms and augmented reality experiences for guests, while Ada meticulously curated every detail of the venue, ensuring the decor and atmosphere were in perfect harmony with the tech-driven elements. When the day of the event arrived, the world took notice. The guests were not just passive attendees. They were participants in an experience that blurred the lines between the digital and the real. The product was launched through a stunning 3D projection that hovered in mid-air, allowing guests to interact with it before it was even physically displayed. The walls were alive with real-time data and augmented reality projections that brought the product to life in ways no one had ever seen before. The event was an instant sensation. It was groundbreaking, pushing the limits of what people thought was possible. Clients who had once been hesitant to embrace technology in events now saw Chima and Ada's expertise. They had set a new standard for what events could be, and the world took notice. Word spread like wildfire. Major corporations, celebrities, and high-profile clients sought fusion events to create experiences that transcended the ordinary. Soon, they were organizing events all over the world, from Dubai to New York, from London to Singapore, blending innovative technology with unforgettable design. Every event they touched became a masterpiece, a perfect harmony of the physical and the virtual, a fusion of creativity and innovation. But what truly set Chima and Ada apart wasn't just their groundbreaking technology or the stunning visuals of their events, it was their partnership. The way they blended their strengths was seamless. Ada, with her acute sense of design and ability to bring people together, would manage the creative vision of each event. Chima, the mastermind behind the technology, would develop the tools and platforms that made the events come alive. Together, they created an ecosystem of innovation, a company that wasn't just about event planning or tech solutions, it was about creating transformative experience. Their success was nothing short of extraordinary. Friends, family, and former competitors were stunned by how quickly they had built an empire. There were whispers in the industry that no one had ever seen a power couple quite like Chima and Ada. The business world marveled at how they had turned their personal journey into an unstoppable force, a force that combined ambition with creativity and resilience with innovation. But the most remarkable aspect of their journey wasn't just the scale of their success. It was the way they remained grounded, the way they never forgot where they came from. Every milestone they reached was a reminder of how far they had come, from the day Ada had insulted Chima in that cafe to the moment they had stood on that rooftop together, looking at the city they had conquered side by side. One evening, as they prepared for another high-profile event, Chima turned to Ada and said, "Do you ever think about how all of this started?" Ada smiled softly, her hand resting gently on his. And now we're creating a future together, not just for us, but for everyone who experiences what we build. They had built more than a successful business. They had built a legacy. Fusion Events was no longer just a company. It was a movement, a testament to what happens when two people bound by passion, vision, and the willingness to challenge the status quo come together to create something world-changing. And as they stood together at the peak of their success, looking out over the horizon, Chima whispered, "Together, we've built something incredible." Ada smiles.